The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon. My name is Tracy Nyer, and I'm with the Virginia SBDC. I'll be your facilitator for today's webinar. For those of you who are not familiar, the Virginia SBDC is the largest and most effective provider of customized counseling and education for small businesses in Virginia. Most of our services are offered locally in 27 locations throughout the Commonwealth. Today's webinar is one of our educational offerings, and it's part of our ongoing webinar series, Google and Beyond, Marketing and Managing on the Web. Today's topic is Snapchat marketing strategies for small business. All of our Google and Beyond webinars are presented by Ray Sidney Smith, a web and mobile strategist, author of So Low Mo Success, Social Media, Local, and Web Small Business Marketing Strategy Explained, and president of W3 Consulting. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type those into the question window and Ray will do his best to answer them. Without further ado, here's Ray Sidney Smith.
Thank you, Tracy, and thank you to the Virginia SBDC for having me here on the Google and Beyond webinar series. As Tracy said, today we're going to be talking about Snapchat and talking about some of the marketing strategies that you as small business owners throughout the Commonwealth can use to make Snapchat work for you if it's appropriate for you and your target audience. As Tracy noted, there is a question panel. If you have any questions during the webinar, please put them into the question panel and Tracy will either interrupt me so that interject so that I can answer those questions if they're pertinent during the time while I'm speaking, and then we'll have some time at the end. I'll leave some time to answer questions because Snapchat is a big animal, even though it's just inside of this one little app. It is a big marketing beast of a social network. So if you have questions afterwards, something comes up, you watch the webinar archive here and you realize that you have another question, my email address will be on the final slide. You can also tweet at me anytime at W3 Consulting, hashtag it beyond Google, and I'll know it's about one of the webinar series events. Also, follow at Virginia SBDC. That's where they publish the upcoming webinars that are coming out along with other programs and important event information for you out there in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So follow at Virginia SBDC on Twitter and check out the other announcements. With that, let's talk about the agenda for today. Today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about how to set up a Snapchat profile for your business. It's not all that different than setting up an account profile generally, but I just wanted to point out a few important aspects of setting up the account, especially if you don't have a Snapchat account. I'm going to presume many of you who are watching don't have a Snapchat account, only because most people don't, and I'll talk a little bit about the demographics and statistics out there, but I do want to point out a couple of important pieces of setting up the profile along that path. We're going to talk about some of the products that Snapchat has. Snapchat doesn't just have Snapchat, it has Spectacles and Snap Camera and some other tools out there. I wanted to talk about what are they, what do they look like, what are their use cases, and would you need them as a small business owner? I'm going to talk about some of the effective posting strategies that you can use for Snapchat, and we'll talk about that in relation to an omni-channel, social presence, an omni-channel content strategy. We'll talk about at least one or two tools and services that connect with Snapchat itself, but a lot of the tools I'll be talking about today are actually built by Snapchat for Snapchat. It's a very native tool-based system, and then we'll leave a little bit of time at the end for Q&A. So I'll be happy to answer any questions and provide follow-up as necessary as we make our way through. Okay, so let's start off with a little bit about Snapchat itself. Snapchat is headed by CEO Evan Spiegel, and Snapchat is one of the youngest of the social networks that are out there, and it has roughly about 300 million monthly active users. Roughly about 188 million of those are daily users, and so we see this really interesting growth of the Snapchat network, and what we have seen forecasted by a lot of the various business publications out there is that Snapchat is going to continue to grow in terms of its numbers. You can think of this akin to how any of the other social networks have grown over time, in the sense that if you take Facebook as the primary example, since it's the juggernaut in the industry next to YouTube, Facebook at one time was for young people who were in college And they wanted to be able to commune, share, and collaborate, and engage with one another in a space. And in some way, shape, or form, they felt like that was their space, separated from the rest of the world. So it was more of this internal social network than it was an external social network. Well, once it became an external social network was when parents and people who were outside of that space wanted to engage and interact with the people who were on the platform. So what we're seeing is the same thing with Snapchat. Snapchat is gaining popularity among a larger user base because a younger audience is using it, and older audiences want to interact and engage with those young people where they're already natively experiencing their engagement and collaboration and sharing. Okay? So you have to really take into account that we're still a little bit of ahead in terms of discussing Snapchat, in the sense that now is the time to take advantage of building a platform and building a user base of people who are wedded to the app as they start to mature and grow. We'll talk a little bit about the demographics of those people as well. This is some Pew Research that the Pew Research Center put out that is really important to take into account here. As you can see here, those who are Snapchat users are, by and large, Instagram users, Facebook users. Instagram, if you're a Snapchat user or a Snapchatter, if you're a Snapchat user, then you're 77% of those Snapchat users also have an Instagram account. If 89% of them have a Facebook account, 95% of them use YouTube, have a YouTube account, and so even looking at WhatsApp and LinkedIn, what's unique about Snapchat is that Snapchat is ephemeral, and we'll talk about this very shortly. But in essence, Snapchat and WhatsApp should really be in competition with one another. And WhatsApp still, 33%, a third of the people who have Snapchat are also using WhatsApp. And so it just goes to show the pull of the fact that if somebody else is using WhatsApp and they ask you to install it, and or someone has Snapchat and they ask you to install it, if you're close enough relation with that person, then it's likely that you're going to install and use that tool also with that person. It's a very low threshold to increasing that. 44% use Pinterest. So it's just shy of half of all Snapchatters also have Pinterest. And even 37%, more than a third, have a LinkedIn profile. So in essence, what we can understand is that when we look at all of the major social networks, Snapchatters are Instagrammers, YouTubers, and Facebookers too. Do not try to decouple this as I'm going to have a Snapchat strategy. You must have a strategy for where are your people mostly, and how can Snapchat fit into that sales cycle, that customer sales journey that you have them on, which we'll talk about a little bit. And that way you're not trying to shove a square peg into a round hole here, or wasting your time by trying to go onto Snapchat and doing all things for everyone. Snapchat should really be about a very specific slice of the pie within the customer sales journey. And hopefully over the course of the time left today, we will be able to kind of unpack that message of where does Snapchat fit in line with Instagram and YouTube and Facebook and the other social networks that you are already engaging in? And does it supplant, or, that is replace, or does it supplement some aspect of the customer sales journey that will then help facilitate greater sales for your business? So Snapchat itself is almost 80% 18 to 24-year-olds. So these are young people who are in college, just out of college, starting their first jobs, and so on and so forth. And the demographic makeup of Snapchat should not necessarily focus you completely on that demographic, but we should be aware that 80% of them are these, millennial, or younger kind of mix there. So the 18 to 24 community is really the strong, central node of Snapchat's user base. and they're posting a lot. So if you think about it from the perspective that they actually post roughly 100 million, I'm sorry, 10 billion daily videos are seen on Snapchat every day. And they are posting as much as they can, as often as they can. They're checking in multiple times, sometimes up to 15 times a day. They're checking in back and forth. And it makes a lot of sense because it's a messaging type app. So they're messaging back and forth with their closest friends and groups of friends. And so therefore there's high engagement within that kind of community. And it's very one-to-one and very personal. Sometimes they spend the average is spending 30 plus minutes per day within the app itself. So it's very, very high. It matches Facebook numbers in terms of how long people spend on the platform in terms of average time spent per user. A couple of other things to pay attention to. Of the 78% of Snapchatters that are 18 to 24, if we then broaden that back out to the 100% of user base, 70% of those Snapchat users are female. So again, the platform sways toward female, and the millennial base there, right, is very, very strong. So 30% of the users are millennials. Just good to pay attention to how that all works out. The idea of Snapchat users in terms of other age demographics, if we just take all of the other demographics involved, from 18 to 54, I believe it is 54 years of age, we have basically most of the users on the internet, right? So that's not necessarily in the US itself, that's a much smaller number, but we can look at it from the perspective that we have a lot of Snapchat users. And so in the US, we're talking roughly around, I think the number was about 27% of internet users in the country, at least in some way, shape, or form, have a Snapchat account. And know what Snapchat is. So that's really powerful. We should not think about Snapchat from that perspective. Even as it's small, we're probably going to see some growth of Snapchat over time. So Snapchat's not going anywhere, in terms of some of these other social networks that kind of fizzle out and go away. It's not going anywhere, and it's not going to see dramatic increases in numbers of people, but it is going to continue to grow in its presence and its strength, at a slow clip. All right, so I wanted to just talk very briefly about how to set up a Snapchat account, because I think that it's good for us all to be on the same page in terms of how these tools are set up so that they can be most effective for your business. And so let's talk a little bit about the primary way in which you set up. When you first come to Snapchat, you'll install the application on your mobile device. And so this is kind of your first foray into Snapchat. If you have no understanding of Snapchat, you must use the app. There's no getting around using the mobile device. Akin to Instagram, they have made it a mobile first and almost exclusively mobile only. There are some parts that work on the web, and I'll show you those today. But this is a mobile first digital native application. So in order for you to engage on Snapchat, you must be using a mobile device. And so you'll come to this lovely little login sign up page. And if you don't have an account, you'll go ahead and click on the blue sign to sign up. If you have an account already, you'll click on login and then be asked for your credentials to log in. So in order to sign up, we click on our little sign up form, and it will ask you a series of questions. It's going to ask you for a first and last name. In this case, I just put in the company name, so W3 as the first name and consulting as the last name, and then click sign up and accept, and that's accepting the privacy policy and the terms of service, which I recommend that you read before signing up so that you know what you're getting yourself into. And once you go ahead and put your first and last name in, it's going to actually ask you a few other things that I don't have screenshots of here, but I just wanted to go over with you. One is it's going to automatically try to select a username based on the first and last name that you put in. And so for me, I think it put in consulting 19 for some something like I guess the last name plus the year, or something to that effect. And obviously that's not the username I want. I want W3 Consulting. So I just changed it to W3 Consulting, and it was available and I got it. So I would suggest that you go ahead and change the username when it auto generates one for you, and select the one that's going to be the one that is pretty common among all of your other handles, whether that be Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and otherwise. You might also even choose something like an exact match username, meaning that it's a username that people would type in order to find your business. So maybe your business name is W3 Consulting, but in reality, what you do is digital marketing training. So you might choose the handle digital marketing trainer or digital marketing training as opposed to W3 Consulting, because someone searching Snapchat will now find you by typing in the handle itself. Now, I would really recommend that you have that consistent across your entire brand if that's what you're going to choose to do, but you can go ahead and do that. Okay. It's going to ask you for a date of birth, and so I chose a fake one, just because I think that it's none of their business. But you can choose whatever date you want, and that way, if you are again in compliance with the terms of service in terms of being old enough to be able to do it, I feel like you could choose any age where you're over whatever the age is. I think it's a pretty young age that they have in their 10, 11, 12, 13, something like that, for you to be able to join, and then set that age, take note of it so that you have it in your documentation, and then it asks you for a password. It'll generate a password. I noticed that it only allowed up to a 15 character password, minimum 8 characters, but I think it only allowed me to type in up to a 15 character password, which I thought was insufficient. But anyway, I put in the 15 character password, and then went on. And then ultimately, voila, you're in the system, and you now have a profile. At that point, you can take a photograph. You can do Bitmoji. If you don't know what Bitmoji is, Google it, and you can install the Bitmoji app and add a Bitmoji for yourself, so that your profile shows a Bitmoji. And then I wanted to go over some of the settings here so that you could see what this all looked like. So here you can see the name and username that we set here. You can see the fake address that we used here of April 2nd, since that's the date, and then, oh no, I guess it's not. It's today's the 4th. But anyway, so I put in April 2nd, 1975, which is a dummy date. We put in our business phone number and my email address, and then password, and so on and so forth. So you get the basic items here. You can engage two-factor authentication, and so you can go ahead and have a second factor. So that means that for security reasons, it would require that second factor in order to be able to log into the device. Which again, if it's important enough of an account for you, I would recommend that you do it. But if you have multiple people who are going to be using and logging into the account for purposes of creating content, say you have multiple staff members who will be doing that, that's near impossible to manage that kind of thing. And so therefore, I would say no if it's multiple people using it. Then you get down to notifications, and so notifications allow you to set up what types of interactions with the system will give you notifications. So you just want to know, do you want to get a message every time you get a snap, a notification every time you get a snap? Do you want to get a notification every time you get a chat? And what types of notifications do you want to receive in the system? Next up, as we pan down this same settings screen, you'll then see the contact me, view my story, send me in quick ad, and see my location under who can X. And so this will tell you pretty much the privacy functions for who can contact you. So it'll tell you everyone, only my friends, or no one. And so it gives you this ability to be able to buffer who can contact you and who couldn't contact you. If you're a public profile in business, presumably you would want everyone to be able to contact you, everyone to see your stories, and everyone to be able to add you that can, as well as seeing your location. And you would want your location set to the location that was appropriate for that moment, and we'll talk about that in a bit. So then you see all of those pieces. Let's see. Then we get down to features, and so features have a couple of different things. You can have your memory set up. So we'll talk about memories in a bit. You can activate and connect spectacles, which are the hardware, the glasses hardware that we'll talk about in a little bit. You can set those up here as well. You can customize your emojis. You can add payments. You can buy stuff within the store, in the Snap store, which is just like a merchandise store. So it has like custom Snap ink based merchandise, little ghosts and other little fun things. You can set the ad preferences, whether you want to be able to choose particular preferences or not. This is actually really important if you're educating your users about how to see more of your content. You can educate them on how to choose the right ad preferences. Inside ad preferences, you'll see lifestyle preferences, and you can actually check off the different lifestyle preferences, like I'm into fitness and health, or health and wellness. You can check off that box and you'll see more of those types of things within the discovery space when you go ahead and do that. And then you have Data Saver, and Data Saver is just a couple of minor modifications to the application that gives it a little bit more energy saving, battery energy saving functionality. So those are really the features in that section of the settings. So next up, we have the clear privacy items. So you can clear out conversations, you can clear search history, you can clear your locations, and you can get rid of your contact syncing. When you set up the application initially, Snap will immediately ask you whether you want to synchronize your contacts. I always say no, and I skip that because I don't want it to have my database of items unless I'm advertising in the system. I don't want that to be the case. So you could just skip that unless you really do want to synchronize your contacts to be able to see what other users are in the system for you. You can see your stories, and then other permissions and data, and so on and so forth. Now, the most important part is under support. If you run into an issue with Snapchat itself, Snapchat has provided you with a support portal. You can report an issue if you experience a bug, whether that's on the iOS or Android platform. If you run into some kind of help situation where you need help trying to use the application, click on the Help Center button, and then finally the Safety Center. So if you see for some reason, especially with an age demographic that skews younger, they want to make sure that they're dealing with trust and safety issues. And so if you, for some reason, see something that would be against the trust and safety guidelines within Snapchat, you can go ahead and go into the Safety Center and submit a report to them to take a look at that. Then you can clear the cache in the system. And this is a quite frequently used tool for me, which is if something in Snapchat for some reason is just bogged down, I just click on the clear cache button and it purges everything. I use the Android version of Snapchat, so on the iOS it may be different, but for some reason clearing cache inside the Snapchat app seems to clear out any of the gunk that's mucking up the works, and it seems to work pretty well by using the cleared cache functionality. You'll see all of your blocked users. You can block users for some reason if they are, not people that you want to see. You can block them. And if you need to log out and log back into multiple accounts, there is not similar to Instagram. Basically, Instagram has the ability for you to swap between accounts. Snapchat does not have that functionality. And so if you need to swap between accounts, you need to log out here in the settings at the very bottom and then log back in to the other account that you are using. So those are just a brief overview of the few items that are important for getting around the settings. There was something that I wanted to point out, and I'm not sure what it was, but it'll come back to me. Okay, so when it comes to actually liking profiles, subscribing to profiles, what I always recommend to everybody is to create your account, set it up, right? Just get it all ready to go, and then go use Snapchat for say a couple of weeks before you start thinking about it from a marketing perspective. Perhaps setting up an account for yourself to use personally. So set up a personal account and then go out there and do some searches under the Discovery tab. So if you are in the Snapchat application, if you swipe left, you'll see your friends and your current snaps and chats with your friends and groups of friends, as well as stories and so on and so forth. If you swipe if you swipe right, that pulls up the left-hand side panel. If you swipe left, you'll pull up the right-hand side panel. And the right-hand side panel is Discovery. And under the Discovery mode, you'll be able to do searches and see all kinds of other information. Now, Snapchat is paying attention to what you're doing, and so over time, it learns what you like, what you don't like, and tries to show you more of what you enjoy interacting with. And so I went into my brand new business profile, and I just did a search for business, and the Harvard Business Review came up, and it's a publication that I, read and enjoy paying attention to. And so here I want to go ahead and follow this profile. So what you do is you'll click on the top left-hand corner. You can see here there's a profile up in the top left-hand corner, and you would just click on that, and then this tray shows up. Okay, and so excuse me. Once this tray shows up, you're now able to toggle the little gray item there, and it will subscribe you to their profile. And so now you will start to see their stories and other public posts on the system, other public snaps and so on and so forth. So that's how you subscribe to be able to see their stories. Okay, so you want to be able to do that, and do that for 5 or 10 different publications or celebrities or influencers that you enjoy or like, and start to experience what they're doing and what they're doing right. That's the most important part. What are the things that they're doing right that you really like about what they're doing? And maybe perhaps you would do those same things on your own profile, or do them differently based on experiencing how that all works. So you're going to subscribe to a few Snapchat profiles to start experiencing what it's like to be on Snapchat. Snapchat is designed in several different post types, and I wanted to cover those because I think it's important for us all to know how that all works. And so snaps can come in two different varieties: photos or videos. Videos can be up to 10 seconds in length, and or photo and video can be up to 10 seconds in length. The video can obviously play for up to 10 seconds, but a photo and a video can be shown, and you in essence get to show a snap for a length of time to the person who's receiving it. So one of the things that's really interesting about Snapchat is that Snapchat's designed to be ephemeral. So whatever you post on Snapchat, no matter what you post, after 24 hours is going to be gone. And so this drives this level of what they call FOMO, or fear of missing out. And so the users on Snapchat know that if they don't engage with Snapchat every day, then there is a possibility that they will miss their friends' messages, and they will miss their celebrities and publishers' content if they don't engage with it, if they don't consume it fast enough. So there is this built-in urge for them to go out and reach it. Whether that's healthy or not, I'm not going to particularly comment on, but the point is that that's the way the system is designed. So you have, no matter what, 24 hours, everything on the content platform basically is getting trashed and will go away forever. And the idea here is that each snap gives you up to 10 seconds for you to give the other person a chance to view that thing. And even some users are go a step further and won't let people take screenshots of things, or they'll be notified if you have taken a screenshot of their content as a next kind of step in terms of privacy and really controlling the length of the data that's out there. So you might find a young person, say a 22-year-old new professional out there in the world, and they want to control their data privacy and their personal representation on the internet. And so they'll have a public Instagram profile, and then they'll have Snapchat, and Snapchat allows them to be able to share with their friends, go out on a Friday night, have some fun, share photos of them having that fun, and that they know they can securely understand, or surely understand, that information is then going to disappear after 24 hours among the friends that she shared it with, and that will go away. Whereas Instagram is the profile that a potential future romantic partner, potential future employer, or her parents, or that kind of thing will see the Instagram public stuff, but not the Snapchat stuff that is just the ephemeral. I'm having fun and being a 20-year-old, 22-year-old, living life. So that's the context for the user. So beware of the fact that you are injecting yourself into their world with these types of snaps. Next up, you have chats. Chats are just basically messages that go back and forth between users. Again, they have the same level of disappearance. If you read the chat, then it disappears. It has a date and timestamp that there was a response, but the response itself disappears. You then have stories. Stories are akin, they were the first platform to have them, but they're akin to Instagram stories, Facebook stories, YouTube stories, you name it. All the platforms now have stories, and it's the same kind of thing. You post a photo or video, and that lasts for 24 hours in the stories section, and you can have multiple of these things that live together to create a larger story, and so you have stories available to you. You then have something called memories. Memories are a way that you can upload particular photo albums from your phone, and so it does this kind of in the background, and you're capable of then sharing memories with others, or saying these memories are only for myself. So you can actually create that kind of difference. Memories are mostly for sharing in person. So it would be, I have this memory, this photo gallery that I want to show, and it pulls it into Instagram and allows you to be able to do all the things you could do in Instagram, into Snapchat, allows you to do whatever you could do in Snapchat, which is, adding filters, adding lenses, adding emoji and text and so on and so forth, doing all that kind of animation overlay on top of the image. But now it lives inside of Instagram, and you can show it, say, to mom and dad. Here goes my event. I went on this vacation. Here goes some photos from the vacation, and you can have the select number of images that you've annotated and shown what you've experienced while there on the vacation. Okay. So next I want to take you into some of the tools and other pieces of Instagram, and this will get us started in terms of some of the content strategy you'll want to pay attention to as you make your way through the Instagram interface. So we're going to talk about spectacles and Snap Camera and Snap Map, and so let's hop out over to that platform and see what we can see over there. So first up is Spectacles. And so Spectacles is a very interesting platform in the sense that it is a hardware platform, and it allows the user to be able to seamlessly capture content. You can kind of watch this little vignette here that shows how it all works. But in essence, it's a heads-up display that when you click the button, you just start taking photo and video of what's happening from your point of view, and then automatically captures that for use on Snapchat. So it's a really, really interesting tool, and it's made by Snap Inc., the company that owns Snapchat, for Snapchat, and it's a very, very interesting tool. Do small business owners need it? No, I don't think so. But the idea, though, is that if for some reason you are very, very focused on a Snapchat audience, I think that if you believe your audience is 100% on Snapchat, this can really save a lot of time. Okay, so this really ends up being a productivity tool more than this is so cool to have a pair of glasses that constantly, gives me access to being able to create snaps and points for my stories. Okay, so the point is for you to be able to use it for productivity purposes. So, try to dissuade yourself from the cool, fun, new technology factor. This is really a productivity tool, and so if you are going to have, as I'll talk about very, very shortly, lots of events, and you want the events to be very interactive and capable of giving people an opportunity to be able to have these kinds of glasses. They're not cheap, right? So they range from about $150 to $200, and so you want to make sure that they're going to be useful in the business for the things that you want them to do. Okay, so if you have to create a lot of content and you want to be able to capture that content in real time, then the spectacles can be useful. But I think that for the most of us, this is not necessary. Just use your phone. Okay. Next up, and let's see, how do I get myself out of here? There we go. Is Snap Camera. And so Snap Camera is a piece of software that Snapchat has developed for Mac and Windows. And you can kind of see what's going on here, but it is for, again, if we're looking at the age demographic here and the people who are using this particular tool, it provides a sense of levity and fun, capabilities of a camera. In essence, you download the software, and instead of choosing the camera on your system, you choose Snap Camera, and then it knows which camera to use on your system. And you can use this in all kinds of settings in order to be able to do that. I was talking to Tracy earlier about doing a demo of this, but the video is showing you well enough what it can do. But it basically has all of these different lens capabilities that if you wanted to be able to put on a pirate hat and do a little bit of fun caricature, you could do that. If you wanted to have wings of an angel and a halo hanging over your head, you can do that as well. And so again, this needs to fit your brand. It needs to fit your audience. It needs to speak to your audience. But this is another way in which you can do webinars and engage in in video environments. You can record videos all using Snap Camera, and then getting those over to your phone and using them to be able to upload as a part of a story or as a snap or something else like that for a campaign. Okay, so you have some flexibility there, and Snap Camera does give you that ability. It's free. You just download it and install it, and you're good to go. There's always the ability for you to go ahead and advertise on Snapchat. So if you just go to, I believe it was for business, it's FOR business.snapchat.com. You'll be taken here, and you can create ads to basically be sliced into the stories. So very similar to Instagram stories ads. They work almost the same way in the sense that they then show up between the other stories of other users, and then you're able to have a swipe up option, which then pushes somebody to a link, someplace where they can go. So a mobile website, your mobile website, mobile shop, mobile product page, or some other landing page for them to be at. So very, very useful tool for people to experience. I wanted to point out one just very brief thing. If you go to yellowla.com, and if you are a brand new startup, Snap is doing a program that's a launch pad for creative professionals, creative entrepreneurs. And what you do is you apply, and if you get accepted, they provide you with $150,000, which is entrepreneur-friendly equity, and they will then give you support, office space, and guidance in terms of how to really launch your business. So you have to go out to LA for this program. I think it's a 3-month program, and it's a really interesting program. And obviously, they have a selection process. The one for this year, I believe, is already over the application deadline, but it looks like it's an annual thing that they're doing, and they're providing businesses with a kind of this jumpstart launchpad program that I thought was really interesting. So if you go to yellowla.com and you're thinking, hey, in the next year or so, I'd like to really launch this idea, this program may be interesting to apply to. Okay, so moving right along, we then have Snap Map. And this really fits into the various content strategies that I'm talking about. So I'm talking about the individual tools that are built by Snapchat, but I'm going to circle back around to the content strategies very, very shortly. I just wanted to show you these things very, very quickly so you could get an idea. So here what we have is the Snap Map. And if you just go to Map, I think it's Map or Maps. It's, let's see here, map.snapchat.com. If you go to maps.snapchat.com, we'll just close these items here, map.snapchat.com, you will then be taken to this space. It will geolocate you, so it'll try and locate where you are. And then once it does, it will provide you with a map. And I'm not sure why it's not showing me the map right now, but either way, this would normally be showing a map. And let's see if we just redo this and see if it doesn't show us a map. Let's see. There we go. Here goes a map. So what it's doing right now is it's showing us a Metro DC map. There goes Arlington and Washington DC. And what it's really doing though is here on the desktop, you could do this on the phone, by the way, by just if you are looking at your Snapchat screen, which is in essence your camera, right? Your camera's on. If you just swipe down on the camera screen on your phone screen, you will then get the Snap Map. And the Snap Map gives you both a heat map of where users are posting, and I'm not going to click on any of these because Lord knows what we'll find. But if you clicked on any one of these little heat map areas, you'll see actual live users' snaps. And you can see that there's some like lighter portions here, and they get darker as they get sort of warmer, the more people who are snapping or posting videos and that kind of thing. Here at the US Capitol, though, we can click on this one. And the U.S. Capitol has something that they've posted, and here you go. There at the U.S. Capitol on the location, you can see that somebody has posted some video. Okay, I'm going to just exit out of that because we don't need to see the video. But the point is that the location is really powerful here and very important for you to take hold as a part of the strategy around Snapchat. So Snapchat provides this kind of location data so that you're able to more effectively show snaps, show stories, show filters and lenses in and around the spaces that people are engaging. Okay, and so what you want to do is you want to be able to find your business on the map, and you could just go up here and search for your location, and then you know your location, see what people are doing, and then interact and engage with those people where they are. One really interesting thing that you can do is you can also embed the Snap Map on your website, and you can keep it live updated. So what's great is you can say here, I want to embed a live Snap Map, and it gives you this little code that you can copy, and it will provide a live embed of the latest stories and snaps that are happening on the map itself. So this could be really useful for you to place on, say, a venue where you have a lot of events. It can place it on your business location, where you would obviously register the location of all of your snaps as your business location, and gives you the ability that when anybody who is on Snapchat, who's a user, who's interacting with the Snap Map in live spaces, can then see what content it is that you're providing directly from the map. So really, really useful. And you can put this on your website so people can see the type of content that's being put out there and interact and engage with it. So I think the Snap Map is actually a really useful tool if Snapchat is something that you want to provide. Okay, so I want to really quickly cover the next items, and then we can talk about them in a real context. So before I get into content strategies, which shouldn't take that much time because it is they're pretty straightforward, I wanted to talk about filters and lenses. So filters and lenses are really kind of the meat of Snapchat. People use them for purposes of being able to overlay them on their current snaps. So say I'm at the grocery store and I'm stuck in line and I want to give some you know, emotional response to being stuck in line, I can do that with these filters and lenses that Snapchat provides. In essence, I take the photo and then I just swipe myself across it, and voila, the filters are, start to pan across and in essence modify the image with what I want it to do. So it could change my face, it could put costume on me, it could put text, it can give me a tiara, it could do all kinds of interesting, funny things for to my image. For purposes of expressing myself. And as a business, that first strategy that I would recommend that you kind of check out is the idea of doing that, which is creating what are called custom geofilters. And you can kind of see what it looks like here. In essence, what you're doing is you're taking a physical location, that is your business location or a location where you're having an upcoming event, and you're creating a filter that encourages people to use it, and it then reinforces or strengthens your brand through its use. So what you want to be able to do is that you want to be able to create these available filters for people, and you can do that very, very easily. So thanks to to Snapchat, they've actually created a just a quick page here that if you go to create.snapchat.com, so create.snapchat.com, you'll be taken here to the create your own filter or lens space. And what will happen is you'll be given the option of uploading your own. You can create these in Canva, for example. You can create these by hiring someone, your graphic designer, to be able to create these. And what these allow you to do is to create interactive and engaging content that gets overlaid on the images that people are sharing to their friends around them. Okay, and these are specific to a location, and they're actually really relatively affordable. So I think it's roughly about $5 per 20,000 square feet. So that would be $5 for a business location to use for 30 days. And so you can really have a wide variety of people connect with your content if you go ahead and do it properly. Now, there's some specific rules about how this all works. One, filters can't contain photographs of people, URLs, phone numbers, or emails. Okay, so they can't have any of those things. And you need to make sure that your creative has a call to action built into it if in a very, like, however you create it needs to be done in a very creative way, right? You need to be very, very thoughtful about how you call someone to action within the creatives of the filters, but it can be done. Also know that the filters do go through an approval process. So if you need something to go live on a particular day, give yourself 3 or 4 days buffer time so that the filter gets through the approval process. And if it gets rejected, then you can modify it and make sure that it does get seen. And so the filter itself must be between 20,000 square feet and 5 million square feet. Okay, so you have the 20,000 to 5 million square feet radius to be able to show that filter within it, and then the filter can, like I said, be active for up to 30 days, filter or lens. Okay, and you can see the differences between the filter and the lens. The filter is just on an overlay on top of the image itself or the video, whereas the lens provides things that interact and engage on top of the person's face. So it can change their eyeballs and give them little, hats and party hats and other kinds of things on top of it. Okay. But this can be really engaging for the right audience. Say if you have a gymnastics center, or if you have a comic book shop, or if you have some other kind of a restaurant where you want to, show food, or say a stationery store where you want to be able to, show your stationery in some way, shape, or form in the lens. You have so many ways to use this creatively that I really think it's really one of those things that you can give some strong consideration to as you're making your way through those. Okay, so you want to make sure that you design your filter. You'll then upload it to the platform, get it approved, set your date, time, location, and then see whether or not the success of the filter works for you. And if it does, repeat it. Do more of that if it works for you. But I think those custom geo filters are really, really powerful, the filters and the lenses. Couple of other strategies very briefly. As I said before, event in real time is going to be really powerful for you as a part of the overarching customer sales journey. So where is it during your customer's sales journey do you have real-time or event-based opportunities to be able to use Snapchat with them and to encourage them to use Snapchat along with you? So that's really the key here, is how are you, if they're normally Instagrammers and Facebookers and they Snapchat with their friends, how do you get yourself in there in a way that doesn't seem inappropriate? And so being appropriate is engaging them in Snapchatting and placing snaps or engaging with your stories when they're in a space where they might feel comfortable. And so that might be at an event or a real-time strategy where you have your Snapchat QR code, which is that little ghost icon that they provide you. You could print that and put that at your register. So if you have a point of sale system, you can have it there. People can scan it when they're there, and it gives them an opportunity right there in real time to have that first engagement with you, which is to follow your profile directly from the register. Okay. Also note that you're allowed to follow up to 6,000 users. Okay, so you're limited as of right now. I think you're limited up to 6,000 followers. So you can follow up to 6,000 people, and that doesn't mean that more people can't follow you, but you can only follow back 6,000 people. Another really great strategy is the behind the scenes strategy. So use your social media, all other places for your normal social media content, but use Snapchat as that place where Snapchatters are already doing their behind the scenes interacting, their one-to-one intimate conversations. If you start having those kinds of intimate conversations, the behind the scenes stuff that's happening in your business, say, you finish recording a YouTube video with someone, well then maybe you hop onto Snapchat afterward and do a short series of videos as a part of the story that talks about some of the really interesting things that maybe weren't in the video, or that you're going to be doing later today as a part of getting the video ready for publication and when it's going to be coming out, which you may not have publicly said to anyone, but now you're saying it behind the scenes to those people who are loyal followers of yours within Snapchat. So use that behind the scenes functionality. People love being able to see between the lines, to read between the lines, to see the cracks, and to see the authentic business people who are making things happen. Another really powerful strategy is the day in the life of customers strategy. So day in the life is, in essence, handing over the keys to your Snapchat account to a customer that you trust, or you putting the camera on your customer for a day and walking around and recording them, talking about their experience with your product or service, or watching them experience it. So say you have a laser spa where you're doing laser hair removal or that kind of thing. Well, give that client a discount, give them an opportunity to have a little bit of recognition on your profile, and record them, take photos, and engage with your Snapchat users, followers, with that user, kind of detailing their experience of having their laser hair removal process or treatment done, right? Those kinds of things are showing your customers to your customers so they can see themselves in the same place. And always make sure that you end those kinds of day in the life of or other kinds of strategies with a call to action. What's the thing you want them to do to take them on that next step of the journey, which may not be buying from me right now. It may be come to my website and sign up for X, or it may be interact with us on Facebook because that's where we put out our promotions, or it may be a number of different things. Don't think about it as binary. Watch this story and then do this thing. It's how do we build trust with you so that over time, when we do ask you to do something, you'll be influenced to do it. Okay? And then one final one, which is to just use the influencer strategy that's out there before. I've talked about this in past webinars, but the idea is to go out there and to find influencers who are on Snapchat, who have the same audience you do in the same geographic location, determine what the goals and conversions are for any campaign that you have with them, figure out what the payment's going to be, how much is it going to cost us for us to be able to get in front of your Snapchat followers, and ultimately what's the content? How are we going to create the content that will ultimately provide us with what's necessary for producing an effective campaign? Is the Snapchat influencer, are they going to produce all the content? Are we going to provide them with a custom geo filter that we're going to put out there, and then the influencer is going to market that geo filter based on our location? So the number of people who take their picture with our Snapchat geo filter or lens, and then shares that with their friends, and then shares that with us, or comes in the store and shows it to us, and they're going to get a discount on products. How are we going to track the views and impressions and all those other things to to show the success of this particular campaign? Okay, so just keep that all in mind as you make your way through. I want to just quickly, before I go to this slide, is to cover just one other tool that's out there that I think is worth showing, and this one's called Story Heap. And this allows you to be able to manage Snapchat and Instagram stories. And analytics built into it is really great, but the idea here is that you can go in, you can schedule your stories for Snapchat and Instagram. Supposedly, I've not used the tool, but I've heard good things about it. And the idea here is that you can then create your creatives for Snapchat, get them uploaded, get them working for you, and then really take your stories to a new level in that way. So check out Story Heap. Let me know your thoughts if you've used it, and I'd be curious to know how others use it. I just use Snapchat plain within the app itself, so I don't use the automation tools and functions within it also. Okay, so how to get started. First and foremost, figure it out if your audience is on Snapchat. You probably can figure that out pretty quickly by thinking about your demographics and whether or not that audience is for you. And so if you have an audience that is on Instagram or is on Facebook or on YouTube, and they are in that probably 18 to 24-year-old range, give or take 5 to 10 years, they're likely on Snapchat. So then it's figuring out, how do we test that to see whether or not they're going to interact and engage with us? And that means sending out maybe a broad-based message to see, of those people who are on your email list, of those people that are in your Facebook and other social media, broadcast out to them that you're on Snapchat and see how many people follow you in one big push. Don't try and do this over some little small pieces. You got to do it in one big push. And if they respond and they start following you, then you know your audience is on Snapchat, and now you need to take advantage of that. Okay? One is to create a Snapchat account or profile and start snapping with a friend. So find yourself a Snapchat buddy. Maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a son or daughter, maybe it's a romantic partner, spouse, partner, and just say, okay, we're gonna Snapchat for a few weeks so I can just get used to this platform and really what it's all about. Because until you use it, you won't really get how it's used and why it's used, and your campaign is going to be a little bit dodgy if you don't understand how that works. Then next, you're going to think of your customer sales journey, right? How does your customer interact and engage with the other social networks, with other media generally, podcasts and websites and so on and so forth, and where does Snapchat fit into all of that for them, and how can you fit yourself into that for them? And really figure out how you can engage them via Snapchat as opposed to just pushing content to them. How do you really engage them so that they can be a part of the community? How can they contribute to the community in some way, shape, or form by being there on Snapchat with you? And then then we use the aforementioned strategies that I talked about on the prior slide to test, right? Use one of the, a day in the life of the customer strategy. Go ahead and try a behind the scenes strategy and see which one provides you with the most engagement, the most, interactions, and ultimately really the most sales. Like if you know that it fills that gap in your customer journey where people were really falling out, then that helps solidify the loyalty and the trust and the bond that's necessary for them to become buyers on the other side. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Tracy, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right, well, we have one question so far. Is Snapchat more prevalent in the US or other countries using it as well? I'm particularly interested in South and Central America.
Yeah, so right now, Snapchat is most prevalent here in the United States, but there are smatterings, tens of millions in each of the various other continents. And so you're talking in probably, I don't know the exact numbers, but you're probably talking about another 20 to 30 million in South America. So if you're talking about, Hispanic countries, Latin American countries, specifically, then you have users who are there. I'm not sure it has as high adoption, but again, it really doesn't matter about the numbers as it does about the people you need to be in contact with. So if the people you need to be in contact with are there, then it doesn't matter that the country as a whole, doesn't have huge numbers. It's just about how many people you need to care about you to make it worthwhile.
Great. Well, we don't have any other questions, so I'm going to go ahead and close it out. Thank you, everyone, for participating today. Today's webinar was recorded, and it'll be posted on the Virginia SBDC website under live webinars and recordings. Tomorrow, you'll be receiving a follow-up email on the webinar, and there'll be an evaluation link in that email. I've also posted it in the chat window now if you'd like to fill it out. Please help us to continue to improve our training by taking the time to complete the evaluation. And our next webinar is in 2 weeks, and it's Google Ads 101 for small businesses. Thank you, everyone, for participating today.